Hey Jenny, what's so great about beer?
Beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. Welcome. You are listening to Beer Talk Radio, the only craft beer podcast in the business section. I am your host, Jenny the Greek, the queen of beers, la reina de cerveza, the Khaleesi of craft, the Bourdain of brews, the Cardi B of ABV, pourer of pilsners, and lover of local dives. Make sure to visit the Beer Talk Radio website at www.beertalkradio.net. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please send me an email, jenny@beertalkradio.net. And if you're a fan, you can be on the show as well. Just click the link in my show notes, leave me a voicemail, and I'll put you on the following episode. Let's drink. For today's episode, I have Mr. Dennis Guy, or is it Dennis Guy?
No, it's Guy.
Guy. Okay,
Like,
I didn't know
hey,
if it, hey Guy. I didn't know if it was pronounced the French way. We have
no, we are not that cool.
You're all American. Mr. Dennis Guy of the First Sip Brew Box, which is a craft beer monthly box subscription that does not ship beer. They are also a husband and wife power couple team. And are both of you veterans? Or
I'm a veteran. She's a veteran from dealing with my stuff. Close. She kind of rounds up.
Well, it seems okay. So she has PTSD by proxy. I come from a military family. I understand. And thank you, Dennis, for your service. I'm an Air Force brat. I love our vets. So thank you so much. This is important that we share your message and that we get people behind you the same way that you got behind every American that you served for. So thank you.
Absolutely. You are more than welcome.
Okay, Dennis. So there's so much to talk about here, but could we just start with, when did you first have the idea to come up with this box?
Absolutely. So it would be around 2015-ish. The wife and I were on a road trip down to the Smoky Mountains, North Carolina. And we were going to some of our first craft breweries down there, which was really cool. We loved the atmosphere. It was like a social mountain house. People were getting off of work. Kids were playing games. There were, a couple dogs running around. I was like, this is really cool. How about we start something like this? Not being brewers, not knowing anything but some business acumen. So we were like, okay, yeah, we can do that. So we get back home up to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we start doing a lot of market research. And then we realized, it's going to be about $250,000 to $500,000 to start a brewery. And it was important to us to not answer to a board. We wanted to own our own company, do things for ourselves. So then we saw how saturated the market was getting. I mean, just in Western Pennsylvania, we have about 70 different breweries. And back then they were popping up all over Pittsburgh. So then we decided, okay, let's pivot a little bit. It just became legal in our state to ship beer. Legislation's on our side. We can do this. And we went down that route. It was about 4 or 5 months of talking to Pennsylvania's legal counsel for their liquor control board, because we still live in Mayflower times over here. So working with them, they're like, Dennis, you're right, it is legal, but no one's trying to do what you're trying to do. So to be safe, how about you buy a restaurant or a warehouse or a beer distributor, and we'll work with you and attach a license to it. I'm like, great, right back at that $500,000 price point that we were at before. So we could have used that as an excuse not to get started, but we pivoted one last time to the model that we have today, where we feature unique breweries and the story of that brewery through their branding, merchandise, swag that they have. And then one differentiator that we have that no one else in the country is doing, we connect the breweries the small mom and pop shops, and we work on collaborative projects to make unique things out of beer. Beer jelly, hot sauces, candles, tea out of beer, coffee with malts and hops. It could be anything. We put it all together and we send it out to 5 different countries. We have subscribers in the US, Canada, Ireland, Brazil, and now New Zealand, which is super cool. We love it. People love American brewery memorabilia. So that's kind of how we got started. And that's what leads us till today.
I was going to save this question for later, but since you brought it up, not to speak disparagingly of your idea, but when I first looked at your website, I was like, okay, whatever. This guy's selling pint glasses and coasters and koozies. That's the same kind of swag. I can go to any tap takeover I'm in Northern California. So when you talk about saturation of microbreweries, it's insane out here too. But I can get that stuff. I mean, I have like koozies and coasters all over my room. I need to like throw them away or recycle them. I have so many. But what really got me interested in you as a chef were some of the actual products that you have. When I saw that you had beer jelly, my jaw dropped. So I saw like an IPA jelly, a stout jelly, a Hefeweizen jelly. I would love to taste those items, but could you give me a review of those jellies?
Absolutely. I can actually send you some recipe cards and different things like that, so you know like what is already tried and true, what they use them for. But they're definitely super good. We also have a blueberry bourbon. Like there's so much, so much out there. Other cool items that you have in the box, the hot sauce. Now, I love hot sauce, but I'm not quite as impressed with that because I believe Stone they make like an IPA mustard or something like that. Yeah,
so
they do a few things.
I've seen beer infused mustards and beer infused barbecue sauces. They're cool. I love the hot sauce idea. That's new to me. But the beer soap, what is that about?
Yeah, so beer has been around for a very long time. At one point in history, you couldn't trust the water sources, so they were doing creative things with beer, and making soap is one of them.
So there is actual this isn't just some hipster trendy thing. There is a there's history behind making beer soap.
Absolutely. So there's a history there, and beer actually has a richer history. It kind of gets overlooked when compared to doing different tastings and pairings like wine does. Beer, if you think about it, monks have been making beer for a very long time. And what else did monks make? Cheese. So beer and cheese pairings actually go more hand in hand than wine and cheese pairings do. So beer, there's so much history out there with beer that people just don't know about.
Oh, that's amazing. So this is part of the experience, is also the history lesson that your boxes give. Okay, I got to ask you about this. Beer dog treats?
It is. So it was really cool. So what we figured out were some humans like their pets more than other humans. So we were like, we have to have something for them. So we partnered with small mom and pop shops all over the country that make spent grain treats for dogs from their local brewery, Spent Grain. So after you brew beer, you got tons of nutritious power food left over. Let's repurpose that. And we're the only business in the country where you can get 6 or 7 different unique things from small businesses for your dog all in one brew box. So we have a pet brew box too.
I mean, this is just an idea maybe down the line, but you got to partner up with Petco, or what's the one online that has the upscale dog stuff? What is it called? Meek? I don't know. I'll think of it later.
Okay.
But I see commercials for it all the time.
Okay.
This is so much bigger than just craft beer enthusiasm. There's something for everybody in here.
Right.
And one more thing, I love the idea of the IPA seasoning. It's a dry seasoning.
Right.
So it's not just a sauce. It's an actual dry seasoning that you can sprinkle on your food. I think that's really cool.
Super tasty. We actually have a beer popcorn seasoning too.
Oh my God.
There's just so much you can do with it.
Now, this is one that I have not heard of. Beer candy?
Yes. Absolutely. So you can, like I was saying before, you put beer in anything. We actually found a new small business where he legitimately takes like 4 or 5 different types of hops, like 4 or 5 different pieces of candy. And I swear, it just blew my mind. It was a marrying of sweet and that hoppy resinous flavor that I just love so much. It was crazy. There's so much. And it's cool running this business too, because we find out about these small businesses. And we're like, send us samples. We want to figure this out. We want to know how we can work with you guys.
That's amazing. Well, I'm excited to subscribe real soon, and I think I love these products. I'm excited to get a box for myself. But getting back to the business side of this, so you realize that in order to do anything kind of cool with beer in your state or in your county, you were going to have to come up with $500,000 to do something.
Yes.
But then you went in another direction. And what was that aha moment? Like, when did the subscription box idea, were you watching like fresh food? What are those food ones? Whatever those food ones are.
Oh, like HelloFresh and all that stuff.
HelloFresh and
Yeah.
Blue, like, were you watching
Yeah.
that on TV and you said, I could do the same thing? Like, how did it go from this collaborative idea to saying, okay, we need to do this as a shipping present or a shipping gift experience?
Right. So that's a good question. So at the time, I actually subscribed to a subscription box that sent me really crazy unique things every month. I was paying maybe $60, $70 a month, and I really enjoyed like being surprised getting a Himalayan salt block to cook with, or a new chef like utensils to use in the kitchen. And not that I used everything, but it definitely, so I already knew of that, right? So when we were thinking about the business and we were running into all these obstacles, I was like, look, for us to penetrate this market, we have to do something different that hasn't been done specifically with what we want to do before. So instead of competing against a saturated market, even though I love the craft beer industry, I think everyone works very well together. At some point, you are competing on some level, right? You're sharing the same customer pool. So instead of us working against breweries, we decided, how about we create a platform where we can actually partner with a saturated market? And once we thought about that, it just blew our mind. We're like, look at all these brewery partners we could have. There's thousands of breweries in the US now. So that kind of is what hit us. And then we didn't want to have to worry about, any major legal costs of figuring that stuff out. So that's why we threw the actual alcohol piece out, and tying it all together with me already subscribing to a subscription box. I was like, wait a second, there's a thing here. How about we do this? And then we started down the path of falling on our face, making mistakes, but through sheer perseverance and determination, we were able to still be in business 3.5, 4 years later.
I love it. I love it. I love your well, which branch of the military were you in?
Army.
Okay. So that's where that comes from. You're just not going to stop until the mission is complete.
That's it. Don't know how.
I love that. But let's talk about the execution. Now, I don't want you to give away all of your business secrets here, but how do you just go from it being an idea in your brain to actually pulling together? Like, did you have okay, let me rephrase. How do you take it from this brilliant idea in your brain to, okay, the logo, and then the graphic design of the box, and then what are we going to put in the box, and then how do we make sure that the glassware is safe and it doesn't break when it ships? Like, and then how do we find the customers? Like, can you walk me a little bit through the execution?
Absolutely. So none of this was okay, we're doing this and we had the answers, right? It was just from doing, and that's why I'm a big fan of getting out in the real world. You'll learn more from starting your own business than you will from any business school that you can ever go to. You would fit a master's degree in 1 year time, without a doubt. So basically how everything started was just going to Barnes and Nobles, right? Like just figuring out what you can do without spending money. And that's why I learned early on. We spent like $200 on super nice business cards. And then at the time, I was a branch manager for a financial institution. And I was talking to one of our business clients. He said, Dennis, why the hell would you do that? He was like, there's so much other stuff for you to reinvest that money in. Don't ever in your life spend $200 on like 100 business cards again. And then that hit me. I'm like, oh, what does this guy know? And then I was like, well, I was a branch manager at the bank. So, I mean, I saw his deposits. I was like, yeah, he's pretty successful. I need to really take what he's saying. So at that point, we just started going to Barnes & Nobles, researching everything, spending $2 on a coffee, which I don't know if you guys have Barnes & Nobles out that way. It's
We
just
do.
a bookstore. Sweet. I didn't know if they closed down or not.
They closed down a lot of them, but there
Yeah.
are a few still left in California.
Sweet. So if you guys are listening to this and you have a business idea, you do whatever you can to figure it out without spending a dime. There's absolutely no reason to spend money. Go there, bring your own coffee or spend $2 for a coffee and read and research. And after, a couple months of just doing that, because I equate it to going to the gym. Once when you start going to the gym, yeah, it's going to be tough for you to keep that pattern, to keep going. But once when you have a rhythm down, your body craves it. And it's the same thing with working on your dream.
Absolutely.
So I was doing it 1 day a week, and then 1 day turned to 2 days, 2 turned to 3. Before I knew it, I was working on it 6 or 7 days a week. And I felt like a bag of smashed assholes if I didn't, go and work on the business. That's an Army term. So we did that. And then, about a year and a half goes by. Everything's going, pretty good, slowly building up subscribers. And then, because our logo and everything are, so this is important to notate. So we rebranded about a year and a half ago. Initially, my wife, she's so creative. She made our logo from scratch. We have no experience doing this stuff. She drew it all up, colored it in, 8 different colors, which is insane from a marketing and merchandising standpoint.
That is going to be so much print cost right there.
So much. It was insane. We didn't know any better, right? So these are part of the things where we just fell on our face initially. And then since I also manage a Best Buy, for 6 or 7 years, I had a lot of lifelong friends that are like me, nerds, and they're graphic designers and freelancers. I was like, hey, so we have this thing that we're doing. We have it drawn on a piece of paper. Can you make this something that we can turn into something? Yeah, sure. Hey, Dennis, this is 8 different colors. Are you sure about this? Yeah, why not? We don't know any better. So we did all that. And a year and a half goes by, just heart and hustle every single day, researching stuff, implementing things. And then I was invited down. They were shooting a local TV show for craft beer enthusiasts here in Pittsburgh. And they're like, Dennis, you're loud. You have a personality. Won't you come on down and be someone in the background? I'm like, I got some stuff going on. They're like, free beer. I'm like, I'm already on my way. So I went down there, did that. I was an extra in the background, just cheering, drinking, having a good time. And then I met a gentleman that actually runs a online craft beer magazine company. And he was like, Dennis, you're pretty cool. We're actually merging with this media company, and we're going to be called Blank Studios. I don't know if they released all that information yet. And we're putting together a craft beer studio company. Can you be our use case? I was like, how much does that cost? They're like 95% off. I'm like, let's do this. And then so we actually, for the first time, had professionals looking at our stuff going, this logo has 8 different colors, right? Yeah.
And how many people in your life mentioned that to you before you actually listened?
Oh, well, a bit.
A few,
but
right?
None that had the credibility of these folks. They
were
run
at
their
the
own
top.
studio, and then we're like, oh, all those people were right. But as business owners, you hate to admit that you're wrong, right? And this is something I learned over the years. I'll say I'm wrong every time, every hour of the day, but traditionally you hate to admit that you're wrong because that means you're doing something incorrectly, and it's our baby. A parent doesn't want to say that they're raising their kids wrong, even though they might be.
Right.
So then they went ahead, rebranded with a new logo, Pittsburgh feel. In the logo, it actually says your beer gear is here, right? And that was important to us because we're still trying to get that message across that we're not sending you beer. You can go down to Joe's six-pack shop or go and support your local brewery and get the beer, but get cool, unique glassware and t-shirts that you could just wear every single day. So we did that. We finally had some real professional help. We got every new business cards, logo, brew box design. It was like a 6th or 7th month implementation phase where we worked with them to get all that stuff done. So we were like, and they did our whole new website of design and iteration and design and iteration. And so that was really cool. But after the site was up for about a year, we started seeing, just like with what you said, like it's still, we're relying too much on text to kind of explain things, and people don't do anything off of text. They want a picture. They want to see stuff.
I want to see it.
Yeah. So, but then now at this point, you go back and you're like, hey, can we do this? They're like, sure, $1,500. And we're like, oh no. So you have to get super creative. And that's why we created that First Sip Heart and Hustle and Everything Hoppy group, because we help people avoid what we ran into. But that's also how I learn, is through teaching and explaining things over and over and over again. There's just so much that we learn from, SEO, search engine optimization, that people don't know, and especially in the craft beer industry. I mean, yeah, you got some folks coming from, accounting backgrounds, they have that. Most of them are engineers, which is really cool. They need that for their business. But for the business side, I'm finding out more and more of these small business partners that we work with and the breweries, they don't know this stuff. So for example, I was working with a brewery. I'm like, he's like, Dennis, we're just having, we're making it, right? Like, we're paying all of our bills, but we're not getting anything additional to take home to justify all the time that we're putting in. And then look at, companies like Green Flash and folks that expanded really quickly. And what happens? If you don't do it correctly, you end up scaling back down, and your business takes a step back. So I was talking with him. I was like, so if you already know that that's a pitfall that you can run into, you have to think differently. What can you scale in your business that isn't going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars? So now we're acting as consultants for these breweries to help refine that process. And the answer there for his specific business was merch. I was like, I go on your website, how do I buy merch? He's like, oh, you can't, you buy at the tap room. I was like, how much easier is it to send out 1,000 t-shirts with that revenue than sending out another 1,000 4-packs? He was like, yeah, we can't even do 1,000 4-packs right now. I was like, my point exactly. So now we're working with our business partners in the showcase that it's a relationship. When folks partner with us, I want to see them grow. Our big motto that we stand behind every day is the best friend of a small business is another small business. When they grow, we grow. And we live that every single day by actually helping our business partners grow. I don't know if I answered everything.
Oh, no, you definitely did. No, that was more than I asked for. That was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. So I have a little bit of, I want to throw a few things back at you. I love the fact that you mentioned admitting when you're wrong. And even sometimes it's not so much that you're wrong. It's just that, there's something that my grandma used to say, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And many people who are artistic or they have that entrepreneurial spirit, they're just full steam ahead, but they're not looking to the right and left. They're not looking above and below. They just see their goal and they go for it by whatever means their mind, their character, and their life experience will limit them to. Okay, so point example, me being myself, if you don't mind me talking about myself for a minute.
Do it.
I'm a chef. I cook. I have burns all over my body. I have cuts here and there. And then I decided, okay, I'm so cute and I'm so charming that now it's time for me to get in front of the camera. Now it's time for me to show the world who I am. And I decided to create this podcast because I thought that my passion for craft beer was the right vessel for me to carry who I am into the world. So here I am trying to go from being a chef and by the way, also a tomboy, to to being like this hot, beautiful craft beer vixen. Okay. Now I'm trying to be an entertainer or an influencer. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I didn't know anything about SEO. I didn't know anything about, I didn't know about hashtags till like 6 months ago. My daughter, she's 16. She could have told me about this stuff, but I never thought to ask her. I don't know if you listen to, or if if you have the chance to go back and listen to the last episode that I did in season 1, which was called The Sneak Peek. And what I did was that I reached out to hundreds and hundreds of my connections on LinkedIn. I asked them to listen to the show. I took the consensus of their feedback, and there were some very specific, important things that I wasn't seeing about myself. They were able to hold up a very professional critique mirror reflection for me to look into and say, you know what, this could be better. Like I mentioned, the reason we're not doing a video, I mean, your background looks great. I look like shit right now. I don't want, this one guy, he said, you can improve your appearance. And he wasn't telling me that I was ugly. He was just saying, for camera, for videos, if you want to make videos to promote this podcast, you have to have a look. You have to have a t-shirt. You have to have a hat. You have to have your face put together as a woman. You need to fix yourself up, essentially, is what he was saying. And you know what? It didn't hurt my feelings because I'm a tomboy. I don't wear makeup, but I had to. And I'm already seeing a much greater response to my podcast in season 2 now that I'm recording in a way that makes me look better. Even my background where I'm recording, I'm literally recording in the corner of my room. And one guy was like, you know what, you should put something there because it's all blank and it doesn't like attract the eye, and like people don't know what you're talking about. If somebody's watching your video with the sound off, like let's say they're at work or whatever and they're just reading it, subtitles or whatever from YouTube, they're not going to know what you do. And you know what? He's absolutely right. When I first started podcasting, I was going to a podcast workshop for a really long time. And I let my instructors listen to my first recording, which was just like a little 60-second commercial or 90-second commercial. And he said, everything is great about you except your audio. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean everything's great about me except my audio? He's like, no, there's something wrong with the way your audio sounds. It sounds warm. It sounds fuzzy. But me being a chef, I don't know what good quality audio sounds like. But within months of me pounding the pavement and really studying and listening to the input of others, I realized, you know what? My audio was bad. And he gave me this very microphone that I'm using now, which has great audio quality. And ever since then, I've been coaching other people to start their podcasts, and I give them feedback about their audio. So I could be an audio engineer right now if I wanted to. If this podcast thing doesn't work out, I'm going to produce other people's podcasts. So there's nothing wrong with accepting criticism. Iron sharpens iron. Now, I'm not saying you need to listen to everybody who gives you feedback, because there are going to be some haters. But if you are listening to people who do what you want to do professionally, and they've done it years longer than you have, maybe you need to put your ego to the side and listen. There was another thing you said about relationship growth, and this leads me into the next thing that I wanted to ask you. I've noticed on your gram, you have built some very cool relationships, one of which being the godfather of craft beer, Mr. Garrett Oliver. Could you tell me about meeting him?
So once when Fresh Fest, which if you guys don't know what Fresh Fest is, it was the first ever black beer festival in the United States that focused on the lack of diversity and inclusion in the craft beer market. And they take minority-owned businesses and partner them up with local breweries to do their own beer collaborations, and they have minority-owned breweries come in from all over the country to do this beautiful beer fest. It's super cool. The first year it started, we were collaborators where we worked with a local brewery that we fell in love with. The wife and I actually had our wedding reception there. That's how much we fell in love with that brewery, which is super cool. So we made a beer with them, got a little commercial brewing experience, absolutely loved it. So when the second year came back around, we actually featured them in a super exclusive brew box where you can get all kinds of cool stuff from Fresh Fest in there. And we partnered them up with a local barbecue sauce company to make a unique barbecue sauce out of beer, which was really nice.
Hold on, was that the Uncle Sammy?
Uncle Jammy's.
Uncle Jammy. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw that on your gram.
Yeah, he's a wonderful man. 412 Barbecue he runs. And so then after we featured them for the whole month prior to Fresh Fest, we were beat. We were doing event after event, spreading the gospel of Fresh Fest. And the wife and I, we were like, we just want to enjoy this festival now. We don't want to be set up. And it was the best move we could have made. So we were able to get some VIP tickets. Day and Ed, they do the Drinking Partners podcast. So they did a live podcast with Garrett Oliver as their guest. And they had all of us in the background. They were passing around some of this Belgian-style saisons that Garrett Oliver brewed. 10% brews just being passed around in bomber bottles, like flooding the crowd. We were like, I can get used to this life. So we're having fun just being immersed in this experience. And afterwards, Garrett is so approachable. Went up to him, talked to him about our business. He thought it was a really good idea. And so we kind of, left it at that, took some photos together. It was super neat. And then that brings us to this month where I've been having this idea for about the last 6 months, right? So I got tired of reaching out to media source outlets saying, hey, we do this thing and it's cool. And of course you think your thing's cool. And then all these media sources were like, yeah, maybe next time we'll do something on you. I was like, all right, so I got to change this whole conversation. How about I create things that are what I call storyable, to make media source outlets come to me. I just let them know about it and create these scenarios where they want to write about us, right? So this month we partnered with Kennywood Amusement Park, which they are Pittsburgh's iconic amusement park. They've been around for over 100 years. I mean, growing up, one of the last days of school was called Kennywood Day, and you'd have to buy an outfit just to go to Kennywood. You couldn't just go there with your regular clothes. So it was a thing. It's nostalgic. And they just retired a ride that has been there for 40, 50 years, like more than all my life. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just approach them. Let me see if I could put together a beer collaboration with them. And thinking that, the outside looking in, a lot of people have told us, you guys conduct yourself very professionally. We think you have a whole production team for all the content and everything that you put out. And when you peel back the curtain, it's just me and my wife hustling every single day, learning, refining our skill set. And so I approached Kennywood thinking they might say, oh, next year, send us a proposal, that kind of stuff. And what they said was, yes. We are very interested. We've been wanting to do this for a very long time. We put together their first beer collaboration with a local brewery. They've never done it before. And the point that I'm getting to lead back into Garrett Oliver, so we were trying to do this really creative beer. I was like, we can't mess this up, right? Because this is the first big beer collaboration we've put together, and we're just coming out the fences with some heavy hitters. So I reached out to Garrett Oliver on Twitter, just tagged him, and I was like, hey, Garrett, if you can please, shoot me an email. I'm going to run some recipe designs past you. Thinking he's so busy, but we fell in love with who his persona is at Fresh Fest. And next morning, 8 a.m., got an email from Garrett Oliver. He's like, hey, Dennis, I remember meeting you at Fresh Fest. What's going on, man? How can I help? And we just exchanged ideas. And he's so cool. I learned the history of spruce and what hemisphere to get it in for what time of year. And he was just such a good, loving guy. And these are the relationships that are more important than closing any deal that you can build for your business.
Wow. That's so intense. Like, it gave me goosebumps. You're maybe the the fourth or fifth person that I've interviewed on my podcast that like knows him or who has met him and speaks very highly of him. So it's only a matter of time before I get to meet him in person one
Yes.
day. I feel like that 6 degrees of separation is like, oh, it's right there for me. I love what you said about being storyable.
Right.
And I feel like we're kindred spirits in that, because that's what I'm trying to do with my podcast. What I've noticed with a lot of the beer podcasts is that they might do one interview with one person. They'll post one link, one picture, and then they move right on to the next. What I'm trying to do with my podcast is tell the story of the brewers themselves, or tell the stories of the brewery itself, and get to not just the business side, but the human side. So for example, I have one guest who has been my favorite bartender for years. I interviewed him for an episode called Selling Craft Beer for the Sports Bar. And then several months later, he threw an event at the bar, and it was like basically like a metal show. So I go to the metal show, and this gets back to Garrett Oliver too. I go to the metal show. He has a sales rep from 21st Amendment Brewery there. I meet her. I interview her. So I'm telling, his name is Jim Murray. So I'm showing who Jim is as a bartender, and then I'm showing who Jim is as an event planner. And then now I'm setting up another interview with Jim. He now has a new girlfriend. They're going to come over, and we're going to do a chocolate and beer pairing. So I get to show who Jim is as someone who's teachable, and someone who's just human and cool and a good friend, and someone I could kick back with. Same thing with Drake's. I interviewed their master brewer, their head brewer, for one of my first episodes last year. But if you look at any of my social media, I'm constantly reposting things that they do. I'm constantly trying to tell the story of this brewery that is growing and expanding, and is that very specifically important to Northern California, and like they're all over here. So I don't want to just show one side of a brewery or one side of a brewer. I want to show who they are as human beings, who they are as professionals, who they are as entrepreneurs, and then the product itself and what stories that tell. You know, why are some of the beers named what they are named? That's like huge amongst, and I don't think consumers always understand how much thought and time goes into some of these brew names. Like there's some crazy ones out there.
Right.
So yeah, I love the idea of being storyable, because you're giving your audience a full 360-degree view, not just a one note view.
Right.
Of
I agree.
Whatever companies you're talking about. And I love also that you want to make your partnerships grow, because it's one thing to say, okay, send me your beer chapstick, but it's another thing to say, okay, what's your engagement look like?
Right.
Let me give you some tips. Are you hashtagging enough? Let me give you some ideas. Who else is in your area that you could talk to and maybe do some projects with? Let me introduce you to this other person that I know that's in your city. Maybe you guys could be friends, you know? I love that.
Absolutely, because it's more than just I don't want transactional relationships. I would actually turn those down. So if I don't feel that buy-in and what we do from any of our partners, that's not a relationship I want to pursue, because I want this to be something that we can keep doing year after year, month after month. You feel that, hey, Dennis, you know, we did this new pint glass design and it's not getting any traction. Can you let us know? Oh, you're using 8 colors. You're just using our experience of what we ran into.
Hey, iron sharpens iron.
That's it.
I love it. I love it. I'm incredibly, like, I have goosebumps, and you've given me so much to think about. Anything else people need to know about the boxes?
I would say the biggest thing to take away, we're willing to ship anywhere in the world. We'll figure it out. We'll send stuff out anywhere in the world. We already have customers in 5 different countries. We do have that pet brew box that's out there. So whether you have 2 legs or 4, we have something for you. And we do have a B2B, a business to business segment of our platform where we do corporate gifting. So we've actually landed a couple real estate companies that, I had that conversation with them. How do you reward your clients? And they said, well, we'll go buy a bottle of wine. Then a couple of days later, we'll get cheeses. We'll put it in a basket, make it look nice, and drop it off. Like, so how long does that take you? Oh, about a week. I'm like, how about we automate that process? We do really unique themed brew boxes. And as soon as they buy a house from you, you shoot us an email. We shoot you an invoice. We'll send it straight out to that client within 24 hours. So then they were like, wait, that's a thing? So now we're starting to expand into that. So if you own a small business or any business, it's cheap. It's less expensive to retain clients than it is to acquire new ones. In BrewBox, we can do BrewBox for your business.
Now that is gold. That is absolute gold. And that goes for any industry.
Right.
Let me repeat that. Less expensive to retain clients than to acquire new ones. Customer acquisition they talk about it on Shark Tank. I mean, it's a big, big deal, and it chews up a lot of money out of inexperienced entrepreneurs. So I'm glad you brought that up.
And I just wanted to say one thing on that. Just think, and this is what hit me that changed the way that we appreciate all of our subscribers. What if you never lost a customer? Where would your business be? Once when I heard that, I was like, oh my goodness, we'd be making $500K a year if we never, if everyone that we've ever had, obviously you're gonna have some that step off, but if the majority of customers that ever subscribed with us stayed on our platform, we would have already achieved our dreams. So just think about that. Everyone out there has a business.
Beautiful, beautiful information. I finally thought of that company that you should partner with for the pet food. It's Chewy.com.
Oh, yeah, Chewy.
So you're going to have to reach out to them at some point. And then lastly, how can customers subscribe?
Absolutely. So you can jump right on FirstSipBrewBox.com. You could also check out any of our social media. We link it all back to FirstSipBrewBox.com.
And I highly encourage you guys to go on Instagram, because then you could see more of the products on Instagram than you can on the website. So that's what got me interested. I love it. I love it. So I like to close the interviews with my rapid fire questions, and they're just fun, silly questions that we can get to know you a little bit better.
Love it.
Okay, so here we go. Who is your favorite Batman?
Ooh, I would say the original Adam West.
Okay.
Would be my favorite. I like things old school. My pop culture references actually stopped at 2001. So whenever I make references to something, everyone looks at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, gyro 50 cent level petty. They're like, that's not a thing anymore.
You're an old soul.
That's it.
And even your logo, it kind of looks like an old school postage stamp or something.
Right.
Like, it's very cool. Next question. Top 3 favorite beer styles to drink?
I would say number 1 is porters. I absolutely love porters. The wife and I, we actually love them so much. We got a beagle puppy, and we named her Porter. So porter would definitely be number 1. Then I would say pale ales, and then saisons.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars. I mean, I enjoy Star Trek, but I just fell in love with Star Wars more.
What is your hidden talent?
Well, I don't know if I really have too many talents. I would say my hidden talent is how easy it is for me to change light bulbs, because I'm 6'5" and I got long, lanky arms. Super easy for me.
So where everyone else needs like a step stool, you just reach up and bam, it's done.
It's funny, in the kitchen, I actually, for more cabinet space, I put things on top of the cabinets, and the wife is like, seriously? I was like, hey, I just like to feel wanted sometimes, so let me know if you need anything down.
My boss is like 6'4". Sometimes he'll do things like that too. I think He doesn't want me doing all the work by myself. He's so sweet. Chrome, copper, or stainless steel?
Ooh, for like appliances
or
just
anything.
like
Just
just
throw
any
it out.
composition? I would say stainless steel. It's more durable, I would think.
Very
Right?
nice.
Yeah. So
Very
if we had to
nice.
make any medieval weaponry, now stainless steel or some type of steel.
Right on, right on. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dennis. I hope that we can do more together. I'm excited. I fully support you and I get behind you. I would like to maybe meet your wife one day. And if she would ever like
Yeah.
to do the podcast from her perspective, it would be cool
Ooh.
to hear her side of the story, and the things that she's contributed to the business, and get that female professional power input. Like, I'd love to hear from her too.
Right. She's super confident. She's actually a family therapist and a basketball coach, basketball player all through college. But she hates being in front of the camera.
Oh,
So,
we'll just do audio. It's fine.
oh, I think that too. But I will bring it up to her because there's a lot to learn, especially running a business with your significant other. Sometimes it's very tough to separate the two, but you need to maintain a healthy relationship.
She could give me some input on the therapy side of
Right.
whatever it takes to keep the business going and keep the marriage together, because there are a lot of husband-wife entrepreneurs out there, and I think that might be something worth talking about.
Yeah, 110% correct. With that being said, I did want to just give her a shout out. Like, truly, we wouldn't have a business if it wasn't for her. I'm the visionary. Like, I end up trying to do so many things at one time. She really helps narrow my focus. And without her, I probably would have died of scurvy a long time ago because she's the one with the health insurance for the business. The bubonic plague became relevant again.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome.
And that concludes this week's episode of Beer Talk Radio. If you enjoyed this episode, please comment and rate on iTunes, and that will help other people find the podcast. If you are interested in receiving one of my Street Team swag bags, please visit my website, www.beertalkradio.net. Enter your rapid fire questions and your name into the subscribe area, and I will send you one. If you're interested in being on the show, I'd be happy to put a clip of your voice and your commentary in the following episode by leaving a voicemail. The link to the voicemail is in the show notes. And if you have any questions for me or past guests, I'd be happy to get those answered for you. Send me an email at jenny@beertalkradio.net. Thanks for drinking with me, and have a good one.